Battle over health care is heating up again on Capitol Hill, with lawmakers on both sides of the aisle unveiling two very different competing plans. Senator Bernie Sanders released his Medicare for All single-payer plan yesterday. He says it has the support of 17 Senate Democrats, many of whom are thought to be early contenders, by the way, for the party's presidential nomination in 2020, and many of them standing behind Sanders for yesterday's announcement. On the Republican side is another bill to repeal and replace Obamacare. This one proposed by Senators Lindsey Graham and Bill Cassidy, which would turn Obamacare tax credits into block grants for states. Based on what we heard yesterday, both sides gearing up for another health care fight.
If you believe repealing and replacing Obamacare is a good idea, this is your best and only chance to make it happen, because everything else has failed except this approach, which will work if we get behind it. If you want a single-payer health care system, this is your worst nightmare. Bernie, this ends your dream of a single-payer health care system for America.
To my Republican colleagues, please don't lecture us on health care. In the last few months, you, the Republican Party, have shown the American people what you stand for when you voted for legislation that would throw up to 32 million Americans off of the health insurance they have, and at the same time give huge tax breaks to the rich and large corporations. You, the Republican Party, have no credibility on the issue of health care.
And Republican Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana joins us now. Senator Cassidy, appreciate you being on with us this morning. You know, we've been talking today about this deal that the president struck last night with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, and the deal he made last week on the debt ceiling with them. Part of the reason he did that is because of his frustration with you all, he says, in the Senate not being able to get repeal and replace done. So why would he believe, or why would Americans believe this time is going to be any different, that you actually could get a deal done that repeals and replaces Obamacare?
We always think that good policy is good politics. What we do is we take the CHIP program, the wildly popular children's health insurance program, as a vehicle to give money to states with power. We have Republican and Democratic governors, insurance commissioners, and Medicaid directors all asking for flexibility, all asking for, you give us the money, we'll take care of it. We do that. We think it's a blue solution and a red solution. We think it's the way to go.
Let me ask you, Senator, we'll stay with health care, but real quick question on what the president's proposing regarding Dreamers. It sounds like he's putting together a deal and talked to Democratic leaders last night, obviously at the White House, that would allow Dreamers to stay in the United States, not be deported, and in exchange, Democrats would toughen the border security. Agree with this package for tougher border security. Could you go along with that package?
You have to see the details, of course, but I think John Cornyn a couple of weeks ago, when asked about it, said this might be the way it works. The American people obviously want the border secured. But if you look at polls, the American people want something done with DACA in a way which doesn't kick out a lot of kids who came here when they were young. So I think the president's probably looking at the polls and realizes the sweet spot is to work out that compromise. So I think that's what the president seems to be aiming for.
What do you make of Bernie Sanders' call for Medicare for all Americans? How much would that cost?
Billions. He would take away everybody's employer-sponsored insurance, which has been the safe haven from Obamacare's encroachments. He would further increase the taxes after taking the revenue that goes for employer-sponsored insurance, and put about 110 million people, at least, on Medicare, a program which is going bankrupt in 17 years. So the American people better look long and hard at this empty promise.
Senator Cassidy, Harold Ford, good morning. It's interesting to hear your approach and hear the Sanders approach. I happen to concur with your characterization of the Sanders approach. It sounds like someone saying we can have fast food, pasta, cake, cookies, and ice cream and not gain weight. I mean, you can't eat all of that as a physician. I'm sure that's not a diet you would propose. And it seems like your side has some issues with Democrats who want to support. It's almost making Obamacare kind of the middle ground. How do you see your plan attracting Democrats to be supportive? And if not, can you, which has been the real problem here, can Republicans pass something on their own like Lindsey Graham was suggesting in his remarks?
Great question, Harold. Look at right now, 37% of all Obamacare revenue goes to 4 states. And there's lots of states like your home state of Tennessee, which really have been left behind. Virginia, Missouri, Indiana, Montana, Wisconsin, Florida would all do better under our plan. Because instead of sending it all to Massachusetts and 3 other states or 4 other states, we would begin to distribute it evenly no matter where that lower income American lived. So if you're in Virginia, there'd be, I think, roughly $7 billion more coming to your state over the next 5 years. In Florida, there'd be $7 billion alone in 2026 going to Florida. Would Bill Nelson vote against a bill which would send $7 billion more in 1 year to Florida to take care of lower income people in Florida? Elizabeth Warren will vote against it because Massachusetts' costs are so incredibly high. She likes the rest of the country, blue and red, supporting Massachusetts' incredibly high health care cost. But let's make it even. And Tennessee will do better, and so a lot of states represented by Democratic senators. Hopefully they'll be on board.
Senator John Heilman here. You say that this bill is like the last best chance to repeal and replace Obamacare. The White House has notionally agreed with that. So what would you like President Trump to do right now to aid you in your cause?
Yeah, so we need, obviously, the CBO to score more rapidly. And we will be we'll be speaking to our individual senators to get on board the bill. We've already begun those discussions, very promising. And we need governors. We have governors calling us up saying that they would like to be on board. Scott Walker from Wisconsin is pushing it hard. The president can help with all that. To pressure CBO, to help us with our senators, to help us with our governors. If he makes it a high-profile issue, it sharpens the mind, gets them on board.
All right, Senator and Dr. Bill Cassidy of Louisiana. Senator, thanks so much for your time
It'll
this
be
morning.
interesting to see where Governor John Kasich is on this deal, who has been so outspoken on health care.
Yeah, we'll look to hear from him later today. Still ahead.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.